Today we're going to talk about the alphabet, the Muscogee alphabet, and we're going to assume that you all already know what the basic Muscogee alphabet is. Just for the sake of the lesson, I'm going to go through it and pronounce them in the way that they're pronounced in the alphabet. A, chi, e, fi, he, a, gi, li, mi, ni, o, bi, si, di, u, we, ye. And so that's all of the Muscogee alphabet. I didn't write them all down because today we're going to, like I said, we're going to assume that you know the Muscogee alphabet, but we're going to talk about vowels and consonants as they're used in the words, in the Muscogee words. In the English language, or in the English alphabet, you have vowels and consonants also, but the rules are almost reversed on English alphabets and Muscogee alphabets, because in the English alphabet, the vowels sometimes make 2 and 3 different sounds depending on the word that they're used in. In the Muscogee alphabet, the vowels almost never change in their sound in the word. There's an exception to that. And as I'm talking about, any time I'm talking about the Muscogee language, you've always got to remember that there's always somewhere little exceptions to the rule. But for the most part, this is generally the rule on the pronunciation of the vowels and consonants of the Muscogee alphabet. We've used example words. I've also included the pronunciation as is used in the alphabet. And also you've got to remember that there's a couple of exceptions to the pronunciation of certain characters in the Muscogee alphabet versus the English alphabet. One of those is this character right here in the English alphabet called a V, but in the Muscogee alphabet it's called and it's used in that pronunciation in the same way. There's also an exception to this letter, which in the English alphabet is R, and it usually makes a sound of run or raccoon or ragged, but in the Muscogee alphabet it's very unique because this sound doesn't appear in the English alphabet, and that's the sound si. It's almost like saying fee, but instead you put your tongue on the roof of your mouth and let the air out of the sides of your tongue to make the sound si, as opposed to fee, where you put the tongue on the teeth. So just kind of keep that in mind. Si. Let's see. I believe other than that, there's no big differences in the pronunciation. However, there's this letter here, which in the English alphabet is called a C, but in the Muscogee alphabet we call it a chi. Now, having said that, as I mentioned a while ago, in the vowels, there's usually not much variation on the sound of the vowel in the word, except this little red star right here on this letter E. And I'll get into that in just a minute. But first of all, let's go through the vowels of the Muscogee alphabet. Let's see if this pointer will, okay. Okay, the first vowel is A, and this battery's getting low. The first vowel is the character A, and it's pronounced A in all the words that it's used in, with no exceptions. One of the examples of the use of the vowel A is in the word tava, which means, let's try this pointer. Nope. Oh, there you go. Tava, that's that word right there. And you see that that vowel A is used right there, and it makes it sound tava. You'll see that vowel in a lot of other words in the Muscogee language, and it will always make the sound ah. Dava. The next one is the one I mentioned a while ago, and that's the vowel E. E. And it's pronounced right there, E, like a long E. And this word right here is an example of how it's used in two different pronunciations. This word, hiji. Hiji means tobacco. Okay, you'll notice the way that I said that. Hiji, hiji. This first E represents the sound of a short I in the English alphabet. I, he. And the second E makes a long E sound. So this is a good example of the two different uses of that particular vowel. That's he-ji, he-ji. The next one is A. And also that's also an exception to the English alphabet. We pronounce it A, almost an I, but it kind of leans over towards an A. It makes the sound A. And an example of the use of the vowel A is legida, which means to sit. Legida, or a sitting place. The next vowel is O. And it sounds just like the English alphabet, O. And all the words in the Muscogee language that you'll see with that character will make the sound O. In this example, we use the word og, which means hickory nut, or even a pecan. If you say oji japkoji, which is long nut, it means pecan. But if you just say oji, or some people say oji sakko, that means big nut, and it's talking about the hickory nut. And there's various other kinds of nuts that we can describe with that word oji. But essentially it means a nut, a tree nut. The next vowel that we have is the character oo. I didn't say you, if you notice, it's oo. So everywhere that you see this word appear in the Muscogee language, it will make the sound oo. Here's an example of the word, and it begins this word, uiwa, uiwa. You can almost replace that with a W, but the correct spelling is uiwa. We probably could have found a better example of a word, but I wanted to use that because it starts the word, uiwa. Joe brought up an interesting point a while ago, and I think Martin Malden includes both spellings, but some people use the word oa, which basically is a contraction or maybe a slang shortening of this word here. Oa is uiwa. Some people say oa. And depending on where you're at, some people use that more than others. The next and final vowel is the character Like I said a while ago, in the English language, it makes the sound V. But in the Muscogee language, it's And I'll explain that, why we don't have that. That doesn't make that sound in a few minutes. But that character is and here's an example of the use of the word hudgy, which means tail. It means the tail, whether it's a bird's tail or an animal's tail, or maybe even the end of the line. If there's a long line of children and one standing in the rear, we call that hudgy. I know at ceremonial grounds they'll tell all the kids, hudgy, hudgy. That means get on the end of the line. So they mean in the tail end. So that word means tail. So once again, the vowels in the Muscogee language, e, also I, a, o, u, and And those are the vowels. Now, we're going to come over here and we're going to discuss consonants. In the English language, consonants typically make one sound. Typically. Like I said a while ago, there's always exceptions to a rule. But in the Creek language, in the Muscogee Seminole Creek language, a lot of them make two sounds, and we call that the hard sound and the soft sound. So you'll see that I've got stars by certain characters, which means that those can make two different sounds. We're going to get started first of all, and I'm just going to go through the list of the consonants. I'm going to pronounce them. Here's the pronunciations as they appear in the alphabet. But we're going to start with this character right here, which is, and then we're going to go on down. Chi, fi, he, ki, li, mi, ni, pi, si, si, di, we, and ye. Pardon me. So if you'll notice, there's 3, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 19 characters in the Muscogee alphabet. And I believe there's like 26 in the English alphabet. Is that right? 26, right? Okay. Because some sounds in the English language duplicate themselves. So when they were developing the Muscogee language, they said, let's not include some sounds that say the same thing. In other words, let's find an example. The letter B, and I'll tell you why in just a moment, because the letter B in the B, because this letter B with the star beside it makes a hard sound and a soft sound, one being P and the other one being B. B and B. So as we go down through the list, we'll talk about that. There are others that are not listed here that would appear on the English alphabet. Another, just real quickly, another one is the letter D in the English language is not included in the Muscogee language because this letter right here, when it makes a hard sound, is D. So you don't need a D if you're going to use this. So basically they've condensed the alphabet a little bit to fit the Muscogee language and the words and the pronunciations. Okay, we'll get started up at the top. And you'll see that first letter has a star beside it. It's pronounced, and when you're pronouncing alphabets, it's pronounced chi. Chi. And this example right here gives us both pronunciations. You'll notice that the first C, the word is chiaja, and basically it's a question. It means do you want it or do you want? But when you pronounce it, it's pronounced chiaja, and that's both pronunciations, the hard sound and the soft sound. The first sound being chi, and the second C being G, chiaja. The next one also has a star by it, and it's the alphabet Phi, the character Phi in the Muscogee alphabet. The first word I've got listed there is the hard sound, and it means the word feather. If you remember a while ago, we went over it in this vowel right here. But in this case, we're going to use that character right there, and it says dava, dava. And that's the hard sound. Dava. Fi. Dava. Okay. The second word is fusky. Fusky. And it means sharp. So if you heard if you notice the difference in the pronunciation, dava makes a V sound and fusky makes a soft F sound. Okay. The third letter, and the third character rather, is he. Now, there's only one way, and that character only makes one sound, and that's that soft H sound. Huh, huh. He, and it's used right here in this word, hutki, hutki meaning white. The next letter is, we're back to the stars again, and that's the character ki, ki. If you notice when I pronounce that alphabet, ki, I kind of hold your breath back, or you kind of hold your breath back on some of these words when you pronounce them. Ki. I didn't say ki with breath or with air. It's ki, holding back the air, ki. Gi makes two sounds, just like these others with the stars on them. It makes a hard sound, Gi, like a hard G, or it makes a soft sound, like a soft K. This first example of the word, ahaga, ahaga. You hear the G. It makes a hard sound, ahaga. In the second word, and ahaga means law. The second word, it means law or rule. Okay, the second word is kisida, kisida. If you hear what I said, the first letter is a soft K. Kisida means to know. Kisida. If you know something, it means that kisida uziskirunos. It means you have the knowledge. And so basically the word is knowledge. Kisida. So you heard the two sounds. Ahaga, kisida. Okay. The next letter, li. You see it doesn't have a star by it because it always makes the same sound. The word example that we used is laksida. Laksida means to lie or to not tell the truth. Hearing a lot of that during this political season, I guess. All right. The next letter also doesn't have a star because it always makes the same sound. Me. That character is me. Imonayit, imonayit. That means to tell somebody. Next letter, next character, ni. Ni. No star. You'll notice no star because it always makes the same N sound. Nufkida is the word I've used as an example. Nufkida. Next character is B. Once again, withhold the air when you say it. Don't make it sound like the English P. It's B. Almost a cross between a P and a B. That's why it's got the star there, because it's used both ways. It's used as a P in some words and a B in other words. We've used an example right here of a word that uses it both ways. The word is pabida. Notice pa, pa, the soft sound. The second character is ba, ba, pabida. That means to eat something or to chew something, but mostly eat. Okay. The next word is the character si. Si. It looks like the English R, but our pronunciation is si. We have a unique pronunciation in the Muscogee language, once again, that doesn't appear in the English language. So we use this character right here because we have no words in the Muscogee language that has the sound of R in it. We'll go and talk about this at another time, but in words that we sometimes translate from the English that has the letter R in it, we use the letter L. An example of that is the word Jesus Christ. If you'll look at the Bible translation, the translators wrote it as Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. Because we don't have the letter R. There's no Muscogee words that has the letter R, English R. So we use that as the sound for the character of C. Now, you see it has a star by it because it also has two sounds. It has a soft sound, sa, and a hard sound, za. Here's an example of that. The word sazlo. Sazlo means fish. The first sa is soft. The second one is hard. Za. Sazlo. Sazlo. I've heard some people that, I guess, if you talk to a first language speaker, and that means somebody that knew Muscogee as their first language, you will hear them say it in this way, but maybe some new students that are learning the language, and I know it's hard to remember the differences in the sounds, but you'll hear somebody say sazlo, but it's sazlo, sazlo. Okay. The next word also has a star by it, and I call those variable consonants. They're variable because they can make a hard and soft sound. But is C. C in the English language is called S, but we call it C. B, C, C, D. C. It's pronounced C. And I've used a word right here. I said it's got a star by it because it makes a soft sound, S, or it makes a hard sound, Z, like Z. Here's an example of a word where it's used in both pronunciations. And this is a word for locust. Some people call those bugs, I call them locusts, that appear in the summertime and make that buzzing sound outside. Sowee. Notice that I made the first sound soft S. Sowee. And the second one is Zoe. It's almost like a S and a Z. And the word is Zoe. Okay, and next one is finally the last variable consonant is the letter D. D. Once again, notice when I said that, I withheld my breath a little bit and used my tongue, the force of the tongue to make that sound. D, D. Not in the English, you'd say T, using some air. But in the Muscogee, it's D. Almost a cross between a T and a D. Okay? But we pronounce it D. Here's an example of that word used both ways, in a soft and a hard sound. The soft being D and the hard being D. And that word is dawadi. That's an exclamatory statement. That means, darn it, goodness. And but the word is dawadi. The first sound is soft. The next sound is hard. Dawadi. It's a variable consonant. Next, and we're through with all the variable consonants. Next, we're going to talk about the consonant we. English alphabet calls it W, but Muscogee calls it we. Makes the same sound in the word, but we call it we. An example of the use of that word is Vegas. Vegas. Also an exclamatory statement, which means quit, don't. So Vegas. And finally, the last consonant, which is also not a variable consonant, is the consonant Ye. And the English calls it Y. I don't know why they call it Y. It doesn't look like a W or an I, but it's a Ye in the Muscogee. Uses of that word include Yeagis. It means they're coming. They're arriving. Yeagis. I read something the other day, and it was interesting. It said, if you'll notice in the Muscogee language, the Muscogee words never end with a W or a Y. You'll never find a Muscogee word that ends with a W or a Y. I don't, but I think that may be true. Now, we're going to stop the lesson right here, but I want to say one thing. There are rules that are associated with the use of these vowels and consonants that changes the way that they sound. Sometimes putting a consonant between two vowels gives it a hard sound. Let me give you an example, and then we'll stop the lesson. The word for horn in Muscogee is yubby. You'll notice that there's a vowel before the P and after the P, and it makes that P make a B sound. It's yubby. So there are rules like that that we'll get into a little more in depth into maybe in the next lesson. But that's it for today.